Welcome to Freedom Motivated with Christina Whiteley, the podcast that empowers you to live life on your terms. Are you uninspired, bored, and unhappy with where life has taken you? And yearning for a life filled with purpose and passion? Look no further. We are here to ignite that fire within, to awaken your true potential, and to guide you on a journey towards absolute freedom. Join us as we delve into the minds of incredible entrepreneurs and freedom leaders from very different backgrounds with incredible stories. Be inspired by their resilience and learn from their challenges they faced along the path to success. These are the brave individuals who fight every day to awaken people to the power of self-responsibility and who inspire them to create a life they are absolutely in love with. Each episode will explore the concept of conscious income creation, building a business or creating a career that aligns with your unique skill set, purpose, values, and belief system. Discover the strategies, tips, and invaluable insights shared by our guests as they guide you towards making a living doing what you love. It's time to break free from the shackles of conformity and embrace the freedom that awaits. Are you ready to take control of your life? Are you ready to step into the life you've always dreamed of? Then welcome to Freedom Motivated, the podcast that will ignite your spirit and unleash your potential. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Freedom Motivated with Christina Whiteley. I am very blessed to have this guest on today, Miss Meri Brown. I met Meri a couple of years ago in a mastermind, and I probably have been living under a rock because I did not know who she was. I don't watch a lot of TV, and I didn't know who she was except for she was like this beautiful, bright light in the room. She was so confident. She was somebody that I just felt instantly attracted to, like I wanted to be around. And I posted a picture of us on my stories. And one of my friends reached out, she's like, "Oh my God, is that Meri Brown?" And I was like, "Yeah, how do you know her?" Like I was living under, like literally living under a rock. And since then, I like instantly went to Google your name and I was like, "Who's Meri Brown? Like, should I know?" And I was like, "Oh my God, what this woman has accomplished." Like the divine timing that brought us together to get to know each other, because I went through a lot too. Right when I met you, I was going through a lot of stuff online. I was going through a lot of hate online. That's something that you've been used to, you've seen happen before, and you just took it like a champ. And I was like, I need to be more like Meri. Like I gotta learn from this woman. She's amazing. And so Miss Meri Brown, can you tell people that were living under a rock like me, can you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your past life and how you came to have millions of followers and how you came to grow a community of people that absolutely adore you and love you around the world, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what you're doing now.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on here with you. And I was starting to get a little bit emotional when you were talking about us meeting, because it was like it was just one of those divine moments, and I too was just drawn to you. You're just amazing. And I just appreciate our friendship. So
Thank you.
and the fact that, you're saying that you're having all this hate online and whatever kind of at the same time, I'm like, yeah, girl, I totally feel you. I mean, you and I have messaged back and forth a little bit about that,
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, I need a cheerleader. Okay, it's your turn now. You need one,
Yep.
for each other. So I
That's so
appreciate
special. That is
that.
so special to me, actually, to have somebody that I mean that understands it to this great scale, and also realize that when you do big things in life, when you take risks, when you are vulnerable and show people who you truly are, there's going to be pushback, and it's not a matter of if you're going to have hate online, it's a matter of when. And
Yeah.
having friends like you that have helped me move through that and be like, "Hey girl, like we got this. Like this is nothing to do with you. This is everything to do with them and nothing to do with you." Like you have been such a light in my life, and I'm just so grateful. So can you talk a little bit about, how all of this stuff came to be? Like, I just want to hear how
Oh,
you tell your story.
okay. So how far back do you want to go?
Well, do you know, like I like tell me from your roots up, and you don't have like, like I'm here for it. I'm totally here for it. And so is my audience.
Okay, awesome. So I was raised in a plural family. My dad had 5 wives. I've got many, many siblings. I want to say it's about 25. And every time somebody asks, I have to count. Wait, is it 25? I think it's 25. Recently we were, unfortunately, my brother died in October. And so we
I'm
were
so
all
sorry.
together. Thank you. We were all together, for the funeral. And so I'm like, all right, siblings, let's take a picture, siblings only. And then people were like, yeah, but what about this part and this part and this part? Spouses, because some of them still live the plural lifestyle, so it's like, well, that then just gets really big and you're not going to see anybody. So it's like, let's keep it to just siblings. It's kind of funny. But yeah, so I was raised in a plural family from about the time that I was 11. I think 11 or 12 was when I had like my first sibling was born from one of my other moms. And so it was normal to me, it
Yeah.
was normal. So then I got married in 1990. I was 19 years old, and it was just very normal to move forward into that plural lifestyle as well. The thing is, when you live a plural lifestyle, especially in Utah, you kind of have to keep it hidden because it's kind of like a no-no. And so I grew up hiding.
Wow.
I grew up hiding. My dad was a police officer, and it's illegal, right? At the time, it was illegal to
Wow. Yeah.
my dad was a police officer, and my mom also taught us at home. And right around the time, I think I was in first grade. So my dad actually, I didn't have any siblings yet, but my dad did have another wife at the time. But there was this big thing going on in the media. There was this big standoff of this guy and his family who was religious fanatics, right? And they were doing homeschool and stuff. And it ended up being this big shootout thing. And it was, my dad, he wasn't involved in it, but he knew about it just because he was on the police force. And so, because of things like that, like from a very young age, like first grade, I hid. I couldn't go outside during the day, because I'd get in trouble for not being in school, because back in the day it was not okay to do homeschool. Like
Right.
that was very, very looked down upon. Um anyway, so then as I grew up, I didn't go to a public school. I went to a private church school where everybody kind of believed the same way I did. So I didn't have to hide from that, but it was very, very small, right? But like even when I turned 16 and I started getting jobs and stuff, it was like I wouldn't ever open up to people about who I was. I didn't have friends that were outside of our church community
Wow.
because I couldn't talk about it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was very normal for me to hide. And then fast forward to, I think it was 2009, Warren Jeffs, who is the leader of LDS, which is a different sect than was on the FBI most wanted list for his abuses and really bad stuff going on in in his church, right? Still a plural lifestyle church, but anyway, so he was on the FBI most wanted list, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh." People in the world, because of this, people in the world think that polygamy is only bad, right? And
Yeah.
so,
Sure.
you
Sure.
know,
Of course. Yeah.
and
Like
so
that's kind
that
of bad press.
yeah, it wasn't a good thing. So even
No.
still, like how many years later, people are like, yeah, but are you part of them? And do you do these abuses, like the underage marriages and the forced marriages and all that kind of stuff. It's like, no, we were
That's
not.
not actually what it is. And it's so interesting. Like, sorry, just to pause for just a hot second, because, many of us have not been exposed to this kind of lifestyle,
Mhm.
right? So you talk about it, and I'm like blown away by all this. But I
Yeah.
understand, by being a kid and being raised, and it was completely normal. That's all that you knew.
Mhm.
Right?
Yep.
So that's so fascinating, and this is just how life is. This is how we do life. This is how we do life together. And the values behind that, putting family first, and how, I totally understand that. So very, very interesting to, like, I appreciate you sharing this piece of it because it makes sense.
Well, a funny story kind of along those same lines is when we were raising our children, we had moved from Wyoming to Utah, and we put our kids in this same church school that I went to, right? And for the first few days, sorry. So for the first few days, the kids were like really, really quiet and careful about who, because they had been raised also. You don't
Sure.
talk about who you are. You don't talk about like your siblings, as siblings, you have to be. But it's like also we wanted to raise our kids to not be liars too. You know what I mean?
So there's
So
all of these like conflicting
don't
truths.
lie,
Yeah.
kind of like be vague. You know what I mean? It's like really
Omit the
weird.
truth. Omit the truth.
No, it's really weird. Anyway, so after a couple of days, some other kid in the school said something about like his other mom. And like our kids were like, wait, they have other moms too? Like it took them a few days to like catch on to the fact that no, it's okay. In this group, we can talk about all you want because
Aw,
like it's like they didn't realize, they didn't understand that, oh, there are places that it's safe to
it's
talk about
safe for
who we
us.
are, you know.
Mhm.
So anyway, so back in like it must have been about 2009, we had somebody come to us who wanted to do a documentary about polygamy in Utah. He had been a documentary filmmaker, and I remember him saying in his travels around the world, polygamy is not only accepted, but it's expected in other areas in the world, in other cultures, right? And so he's like, and then you come to the United States and it's like, oh no. And then you come to Utah and it's, oh no. You know what I mean? It's like a whole other level of no, you know? So then he's like, so what is it? Like, why is it such a bad thing? And of course, the bad press that was happening at the time. So we started conversations, and he wanted to do this documentary, and we're like, but we're hiding. Don't you understand? We have to hide, so it was
Right.
a lot of conversations. And then obviously it ended up that, all right, well, here we are. So yeah, so it's been about 14 years that we've done this TV show that has very much documented our family. So
Wow. Wow. And so like you had no idea that Sister Wives was going to be picked up on Netflix or any of those things. Like you had no idea. You thought it was just going to start as a documentary that you guys.
well, interesting. My then husband, I am divorced now, but at the time when we first started it, he actually said, you know what, if I'm gonna put my family, if we agree that we want to do this, it's gonna be more than just a couple of hours in the living rooms of Americans. Like
Sure.
it has to be more than that.
They have to be able to have the full picture, not just a snapshot, right?
Yeah, yeah. So our very first season was 7 half-hour episodes. So they agreed to, and honestly, Christina, we might have to be a little bit careful about some of this.
Okay.
I'll talk about that later. But anyway,
Okay.
so our very first season was just 7 half-hour episodes. And so it was very short, because they're like, let's see if it works. And we'll see what happens from there. And here we are. So yeah.
Wow. Well, you know what? But like, that's the thing, because there's so many people that this concept was totally foreign to. And
Mhm.
now, because you guys had the courage to talk about it, because you had the courage to be vulnerable and allow people into your lives, this is something, because I didn't know that it was something that's like wildly accepted or even promoted or expected in other countries. Like, I don't know any of that stuff because I was raised in Canada in a small town,
Right.
right? Like, you don't know these things. And so I find it so interesting that that you all saw the vision. And so when this progressed and you started having this show and you started being recognized, I can imagine the work that you had to do to go from always being hidden and hiding this to now you are in public and a celebrity. Like,
Yeah.
tell me about that, and like how, like the transition, like how did you adapt to that? Because that would be like absolutely shocking in your
Well,
system, right?
it's been very, very interesting. And even that first less than 6 months of being public, the state of Utah caught on to it, obviously.
So what
And
happens? Like, how does
they basically came after us. They came after us. They basically kicked us out of the state. They threatened. Oh yeah, they okay, those are my words. Basically, that's what happened.
now I'm like, okay, now I see why you want to record this. And like, what are we allowed to say? What are we not allowed to say? This
No,
story
right?
is getting way more interesting. I'm like,
No,
what is happening here?
it's very interesting. If you don't know and I tell you everything about everything, like I can see how it'd be like a shocker. Yeah. Because you and I haven't spent that much time, you don't know everything unless you go back and, watch everything. But anyway, so yeah, no, they basically did kick us out. They came after us, they threatened arrest. We literally were signing papers because at the time, all of our children were minors. They were all under 18. Um, and so we were literally signing papers, assigning who would get our kids.
Oh
You
my
know,
gosh.
who ended up being arrested. Like it
It's like
was
it's like absolutely illegal. You don't have a right to live that way at all. You can't choose to live that way.
right. It was my work, my perspective of all of this. The way that we were being treated was full on bullying. It was
Of course, yeah.
because they were like, it's okay. We know a lot of polygamists live in Utah, but if you keep your head down, if you stay hidden, and if you don't say a word about it, then it's okay. But the minute you stand up and say, wait a second, this is who I am. My then husband, and there was four wives, right? And him taking responsibility for financial, emotional, whatever of the family, right? And saying, wait a second, no, these are my wives and these are my children, instead of just hiding. Like they literally told us, if you just have, um, somebody on the side, and if you don't claim her as a wife, then it's okay. We won't come after you.
It's wild. Like now it's funny because now you think like now, like what I think about is like all of the people that are fighting for gay rights and transgender rights and all of these things, like because they were told if they were done in private, then it doesn't matter, but it can't be public. You know what I like
just hide, just hide who you are, and then
yeah.
see.
It's
So
just
yeah,
it's so
I know.
wild to me. Like it is quite wild. Like when you actually sit down and think about it, that could be an issue, that you don't actually have control over your life or your choices. Like to me, that really kind of makes me shake my head. And like over the last 5 years, I've seen that absolutely, come into place.
Yeah.
And so and it's funny because you said if you go back and watch all the episodes, I didn't, because when I met you, you're divorced, and I was like, I'm just getting to know Meri. I don't care about him. Like
Fine. It's funny when you and I met, I had literally just gotten divorced. Like,
man. And so
and
tell me about that. Tell me about like, because you're not just divorcing a husband, now you're divorcing your sisters, right? Like now you're divorcing your sisters
yeah.
and all these kids that you guys have lived with.
Well, so it's interesting. So okay, there's
Layers.
I have this polarizing story, this confusing life, right? So I actually got legally divorced because I was the first wife. I got legally divorced in 2014. And that was for the purpose of one of the other wives to legally marry him so that the kids could be adopted, her kids, because she had 3 kids from a previous marriage.
Okay.
And he couldn't adopt the kids unless he was married to her. And
Right.
we've had a lot of people come at us and say, well, wait a second, you can adopt kids if you're not legally married. Well, yes, that's true, but he was legally married to me. So since he was legally married to me, if he wanted to adopt the kids, I would then also have to adopt them, and she would have to give up rights to her own children, which was not going to
Not
happen.
okay.
So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So that wasn't the point. So I did in 2014 have a legal divorce. And then shortly after that, probably within 6 months after that, like he and I realized that there was definitely a shift in our relationship. And so I spent the next 8 years or whatever, trying to move forward, trying to see if there was a way that we could, figure out our relationship. And, by the end of, what was it, 2022, we just realized that wasn't gonna happen. So, yeah. So it was, even though it was already legally done, it was officially done, by the time you and I met.
Man, people, it's so funny. So, you bring up all of these moving parts, all of these things, like, because the way that you just described it makes sense to why all of that would have happened, right? And the way, in the order that it did, so that she could include her kids in the family. It's so funny because Ryan and I both, we have divorced parents, and they're all remarried. So we have 4 sets of parents, plus we have his biological parents that we found. So we have all of these family, we have all of these step siblings. Like, when we got married, everyone's like, we need like a family map, like a family tree to figure it
Yes,
out.
yes. I hear ya. I hear ya.
That's what I'm picturing in my head, like this
Yeah.
family tree of all these kids and wives and everything. And so, okay, so is that common? Is divorce common in plural lifestyle? Like, is that something that is common or not common?
It probably about as common as it is anywhere else.
Okay. And so,
Yeah.
like, you don't just commit to like living as friends and everybody lives together. Like, you're just like, no, we're gonna go our separate ways and we're gonna move on and go down a different path.
Well, and I think hold on. I'm so sorry. I've got this
No, it's
cough.
okay.
Edit that out. No.
We're live. No.
Right. I was just gonna say something about the
Like being divorced in that space, or
yeah.
if you would like just live, like, is it common? Is
Oh,
it not?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think that I've seen it all different ways, as far as like when people divorce, and I think honestly, I think it's similar to any sort of a divorce situation, right? It's like, well, sometimes it can be really ugly, and sometimes you can kind of be okay with each other, and sometimes maybe you're friends. I don't know. Like I think it just comes down to the humans involved in the
Sure, of
situation,
course.
how they want to be, right? So at the time that I divorced, um, there was already 2 wives that had already left.
Okay.
And so I was the third one. Um, and so, and I have interaction and conversations and relationships with some people in the family as far as like, um, my sister wives or the kids, right? And then some of them I don't so much.
Yeah,
And again, I think that's normal, especially in a big family. Like just because you have a big
100%.
family doesn't mean you're supposed to be best friends all the time, right?
No, no, you get to pick and choose. Well, you don't actually. You don't get to pick your family, but you get to pick and choose who you maintain your
You
relationships
gotta,
with.
yeah, you gotta pick who you have interaction with and what level of relationship that is. And it's honestly, it's taken me a long time to accept that that's okay.
Yeah. I
Because in
bet.
my mind, it's like, well, we're family. We should all be friends and we should all interact. And then I have to look at my own siblings. You know, I'm super, super close to one of my siblings that I wasn't even raised with. You know, like she was, I think, one or two at the time that I got married, right? So she's like a
Wow.
lot younger than me, but
Mhm.
I'm super close to her. But then there's some that I hardly even talk to. You know what I mean? So it just kind of it's like, how is our relationship? Can it be reciprocal? Can I do something for you and you do something for me? Can I give you the love that you need and, you know, get the love back that I need? And if not, that's okay. I wish you the best. And when we see each other, we'll be kind to each other. You know what I mean?
I think more people need to live like that, Mary. I think more people need to live like that, you know? And so now that you are moving on in a way that is focused on helping other women thrive, we'll talk about Worthy Up in just a second, but I'd be curious to know, like, with your experience and being raised this way, so is this like the normal relationship that you look for now, or are you looking? Sorry, that's my alarm that goes off to tell me that I need to feed my baby because I'm sleep training.
Oh,
So do you see yourself going forward and being in another plural lifestyle because that's what's normal to you? Or are there some things that you've learned along the way that you realize that, you know what, maybe that isn't the lifestyle for me, and moving forward in this next chapter of my life, I'm gonna do things differently.
you know, I am 53 years old and I am so happy with where I am. And
Mhm.
I'm really happy with who I have or am becoming. You know what I mean? I have not become, but I am becoming, right? And as far as like moving forward in a plural lifestyle, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do that. I hope that I find somebody. I hope that I find somebody special for me. But I'm not going to move forward with that. You
You know
know,
what?
it's not like I've been there, tried that, didn't work, so I'm out. It's really more of a I did it. I gave my whole heart. I think as we grow, I mean, I was 19 when I got married, and it was only
Wow.
3 years later than that, that the first sister wife came into our family, right? It was not even quite 3 years after that. So I was really, really young, and this was a belief that I was raised in. And I think, 30 years after the fact, I'm wiser. I know more about me rather than who I thought I was because I was raised a certain way. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And I think that's normal for people. I don't really feel like I had like a religious crisis, or is that what they call it? A religious crisis? You hear people talk about that. And I
Sure.
don't think it was that necessarily. I don't think that I disbelieve in the practice of plural marriage. If people, I mean, everybody involved has to be okay with it and has to be like
Yeah.
super willing and devoted. And I think that we were for a really long time. Um, but I just don't think that that's what I want anymore,
Yeah. It's
you know?
interesting how we change and we grow. And this is why I wanted to ask you that question before we move into what you're doing now with Worthy Up, is that you get to this place that you value yourself in a different way. And after, being married so young, and don't let me put words in your mouth by the way, like, I'm not trying to do that,
Oh, you're fine.
because I have not had your experience. I don't know, but I know what I can tell you is that when I was young, I allowed people to treat me poorly and I didn't expect more for myself. I kind
Mhm.
of settled for what I deserved, I was worth. And that got me into some very interesting positions in relationships that I was not thriving in, but was in for other people to try and save them, to try and help them, to try and be part of something, and it wasn't until I hit the kind of the place where you are right now, where I was whole the way that I was, and I didn't need anybody else, that I was very much in love with who I was and what I brought to the table. That was when I did meet my husband. So I'm very positive for you that you will meet somebody that is perfect for you, and that you will get to, like, you're not even halfway through your life, hopefully. We're going to live to, like, we're like
That's my
120 with
plan. That is
technologies and
my
stuff, right?
plan.
So, like, you will find somebody that will do this life with you, and enjoy every piece with you and build memories with you. And I think that that's such a powerful place to be. And that's why I wanted to ask that question before we talk about what you're doing now with Worthy Up. And so, can you, after all of these things that you've been through, I can't even imagine having like, people get divorced all the time, but I can't even imagine that being public,
It's
right?
very
Like,
public. It's very
it's very
public, and
public.
everybody has an opinion on
I'm
it, and
sure.
that's okay. You can have your opinion. My thing is, and this is something that I've really, really had to work on, is my opinion is the one that matters. The
Yeah,
people who are close in
100%.
my circle is what matters. The outsiders, all the outside voice, honestly, sometimes the voices in my own head that come from come from the outsiders, it's like those don't matter. And it's so hard to let it not matter, because you hear them and you hear them and you see them and you read them, and people send you messages and people send you death threats and people send you hate, you know what I mean? And it's crazy.
It's
And
wild what people think they can get away with. Like, who the hell are you to send a death threat? By the way, my husband got one by email. By
oh my
email, like,
God.
to his professional email down here, when one of my videos went viral because we are white colonizers of Mexico. And I'm just like, are you serious? And they actually told him to kill himself. And I'm just like, this is so inappropriate. What kind of human being are you that you don't know somebody, that you would reach out and ever say that to somebody? Like, it just blows my mind, the audacity of
Yeah,
people. And
yeah,
I think that, you know what, and the other side of it, I'm so grateful, because I'm like, if that didn't happen, it wasn't so wild, and it was just like little digs that I started taking personally, I'd be like, oh, but it was so wild that I was like, you can't pay attention to any of that. Like, that is
right.
nothing to do with you. That is like crazy people out there that are very unhappy in their lives, that don't know how to deal with their own trauma, so they project it at you,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
That's exactly what it is. It's projection. If they were, I I am not saying that I am perfect and I have it made. But I am saying that I am confident enough in myself that if I see somebody whose lifestyle, whose beliefs, whose whatever I don't agree with, I can let it go. It's like, that's not mine to carry.
No.
Why are you trying to carry me? Right? Like, why are they trying to, like, so much trying to control, like, what I believe, or tell me that I'm wrong, or tell me that I should die? You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
So horrible. And I also like, think of the perspective of, like, could you imagine waking up for one day and living in the life of somebody who could say that to somebody? Like,
It makes me sad for them.
it makes me so sad that there are people out there that are that miserable, that they would feel that way, or even if they felt that way, have the audacity to say it to somebody else. Like, it just, this world is very conflicted right now. And when you live boldly and bravely, there's always going to be an opinion that is not yours, that is against yours, that is working against you. And you have to learn how to overcome those things and just not pay attention to it, because it's not yours to own. I even had a girl, it's funny that we're talking about this. A friend of mine moved to Mexico, and she's back up in BC now with her family. And she said, are you still happy there? Are you happy that you made that move? She's like, man, the hate that I got for moving down there. I was like, isn't it wild? Like, it's so crazy. We all can live wherever we want in the world, and
That
people are
doesn't
going to
make
hate on that.
sense.
It does not make sense. because they go, they can live anywhere they want. They can go to the US or Canada or whatever it is to seek a better life. Why can't we come here and do the same thing? And I do understand, by the way, I do understand that we can increase the cost of living, we can make it more difficult, but we also bring money into the economy and we create jobs and we give back and we want more for, like, I'm betting on the Mexican economy over the Canadian economy for the next 10 years. Okay. Like, I think that they're going to do really, really well here. And there's massive opportunity for the people that live here. And I'm excited for them. And I want to be a part of that. And I want to fuel that and help people in any way possible that I can, because when we use social media and when we start to build a personal brand, when we do that, it crosses all borders. There's no limitation, right? And so it's taking your power back. And I think that that's something that you are reflecting so beautifully and worthy of. It's something that you are, like that you're like, no, none of this other stuff matters. Who I am and who I know that I am matters. And I'm able to create whatever the heck I want in this life. So can we talk a little bit more about what you're doing with Worthy Up?
Let's talk about Worthy Up. I love that. Thank you.
Yes.
Worthy Up is a brand that I created. It's kind of a movement, I guess, of like just being there to help people remember that simply because they exist, they are worthy. Simply because they exist. That's it. That's it. And I think way too often we forget that. I have forgotten that so many times in my life. There's been times in my life that I haven't even realized that I was worthy. I didn't know. It was like I was just living my life. I was just doing my thing. Like, it's like, oh, I get to have my own opinion. I get to say it. I get to, you know what I mean? Like, it
Yeah.
long time to like realize, wait, I get to have my own opinion. I get to have, you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of
It doesn't
interesting.
have to be in secret, right? Like, because you were
Right.
raised in this way that everything was a secret and everything was private, and that you actually are allowed to speak out loud. You're allowed to have a voice. You're allowed to have a thought. You're allowed to do whatever you want to create the life that you want. And I
Yep.
feel that there's so much power behind that because of who you are and what you come from, that you are the perfect person to bring that to the world.
Thank you.
And so tell me, how are you supporting women in this community? What are you doing? Like, where can people find you? What are you doing right now with it?
So worthyup.com is where you can find all the things, but it's not just for women, it's for all humans.
Oh, I love
All
it.
humans.
Oh,
Everybody needs to remember that they're worthy.
yeah.
Everybody needs to have a little kick in the butt once in a while to be like, listen, everything that you have been told, all these people that have been putting all this crap in your head, like, let's get it out. Let's get rid of the trash. That's one of my biggest things is like, let's take out the trash because there's so much in there. Like, get it out of there and then fill it up with something good, you know?
Yeah, be intentional about what you're filling your mind with. I think that so often, like you said, we go by the day to day and we don't take time to notice. We don't take time to think bigger or dream bigger or create more, because it's just the day in, the day out, the day in, the day out. And we get stuck. I know I was stuck for probably a decade with negative
Mhm.
self-talk and self-sabotage and limiting beliefs that I didn't think that I was worthy of creating something more, or smart enough, or pretty enough, or talented enough, or educated enough. I didn't think any of those things
All
until
these
I
things
went,
that affect
yeah.
you, so much that affects you that shouldn't.
Isn't I know, and other people don't see it in you. That's the crazy thing, that this is actually what you're saying to yourself in your head is not true, and nobody would even know that you're thinking it. But it's like this weird thing that our brains do to keep us safe. They run all these different scenarios that are never going to happen through our brains just to keep our body safe. But we end up carrying those things through our life and never actually truly becoming who we're meant to be, because we allow those to keep us small. And I honestly, Mary, I can't think of a better person to help people move through that than you, for everything that you've been through, for the courage that you've had to go, like, to go through what you've been through and to come out the other side as someone with so much value and self-belief and self-worth. And the fact that you were inspiring other people to do that is such a powerful, powerful mission. I'm so happy that you're doing it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's just I've had a lot of people even tell me, And it's the hate on social media, which is the biggest place because it's the easiest. It's like, why would I take any, this is the messages that people send to me. Why would I take any instruction or advice or, from you, somebody who stayed too long in a marriage than they should have? Like, why would I do that? Like, you're the last person I would. It's like, well, okay, one, that's your opinion about how long I should have stayed in your marriage or in my marriage based on your own personal values, right? Like, I know
Correct.
what I was doing. I knew exactly what I was doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then the other thing is, so why wouldn't you take any sort of advice from me? Because I did it. Like, I did it,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what did I learn in the process? I have no regrets. I have no regrets for how long I stayed in my marriage. There's been times that I've been frustrated. It's like, why couldn't we have had these conversations sooner? And, maybe 8 or 10
Sure.
years ago, like I could have, maybe I could have been 43 looking for a new husband rather than 53. No, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but those
Might
life
have had a little bit more
experiences,
luck.
but
You know
those
what I
life
mean?
experiences are what make you who you are. But like,
There
who's
is,
anybody to judge?
there is no way I could have done the things that I've done 10 years ago. Like, right?
No, no,
5,
yeah,
8,
yeah.
10 years ago. Like, I am so confident in who I am and what I bring to the table. And I have like this amazing support system. There's so much that I've learned through the process. So why wouldn't you take advice from me? You know what I mean? Like,
That's
because
the
I
thing.
have learned those things.
Well, it's you've learned those things and you've gone through fire to get to where you are now. And that's what qualifies you actually. I don't know if I would be able to learn about overcoming and worthiness from somebody that had a very gifted, blessed life that hadn't been through the mud, that hadn't come rose from the ashes, that had like, what do you have to contribute? Because you will never have the empathy that you need to help others through it if you've never been through it yourself, right?
Right. Well, here's the thing. The only thing that you need to be able to teach and encourage somebody is to be one little step ahead of them.
That's right.
You don't have to know it all. And I do not claim to know it all. Like, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a life coach. I'm not you know what I mean? I've just been through some stuff. And if anything,
Some stuff.
some stuff, and if anything that I have been through and I have learned can help somebody else, cool. That's it. That's all I have to do, is share my story,
And give
share
it,
my,
yeah, and provide a safe place for people to share theirs, right? A safe place for people to land, a community of people who care. And
yeah.
so many people don't have that, and they live in silence, in this pain, in this suffering. And like I find you hugely inspiring, by the way. Like I find you absolutely inspiring for everything that you've been through and what you're creating and how you live so publicly and how you overcame many of those judgments. Like most people would never even have the courage to do that. Most people would say no, right? But you guys cared enough about your family and about your way of life to try and educate people and show. And then not only that, but you didn't stay in it when it didn't serve you anymore because of the show. You didn't stay in it because, oh, we can't, get a divorce because this is what we're going through. You're like, no, I'm going to do what's best for me and what's best for me right now. And I think so often people think you need this big grandiose vision of your life and it's going to go a certain way. But really, life is all about what's the next right step for me right now? What's the next right thing that I need right now? And by the way, that doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, including family. It comes down to you. And that's why, like, when you get into a partnership or a marriage, it's both like everybody's has to be willing and giving it their all, right? And if they're not, then you end up growing apart as opposed to together. And I think that so often there's all of these judgments, but no one can ever judge because they've never stood 2 days in your shoes. They've never experienced the life that you've had. They've never experienced the past that you've had. So how could they possibly judge in that position, right?
Yep. And that, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, there's no way that I feel like I could look at anybody else, look at you and be like, oh my gosh, why did you move from Canada to Mexico? You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know your backstory. I don't know what made you do it, but I'm not going to have an opinion about it. I think it's cool. You know what I mean? But it's
Come
like,
visit.
I will. You know, like, I don't know your story. I don't know everything that you've gone through and the reasons that you would do that. And so I'm not going to have an opinion of it. I'm
Yeah.
not. Like, and the people who watch my story and how it's played out, what they see is a small amount, a very, very, very small amount, right? They don't know what's in my heart. They don't know what's in my mind to, you know, for me to make the decisions and the choices that I've done, you know, the conversations that I've had. Like, they don't know that. So,
No, of course not. I think what you're doing is wonderful, Mary. I think that it's very powerful and teaching somebody. Hold on just a sec.
no, you're good.
I am so grateful to have this conversation because I think that having a life that you are absolutely proud of is one that matters the most, right? It doesn't matter what people think, it doesn't matter what they believe. You get one shot at this, and if your life pisses off somebody else, that's their problem, not yours.
Yeah.
So I'm just really so grateful that I got connected with you and that I got to, witness this absolute rebirth of who Meri Brown is coming into, like, you look like it, by the way, like, I feel like you've aged backwards since I met you. Like,
Oh,
you look like a different person. You are brighter. You've got this sparkle in your eye that I know you were going through a lot when I first met you, but like, you've got this sparkle in your eye now. Whenever I see posts come up and you do your live videos, I'm just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And by the way, if you guys don't follow her on social media, she like crushes it in online business. She's just like has the greatest following of people that love her. She's done the work, right? Like, you put in hours and days and years, and that's what it takes. And so for somebody to say that you're not qualified to give advice on how to be worthy is so short-sighted, and kind of a joke. And I'm so grateful that you agreed to do this podcast. So you said worthyup.com, where they can find you. Where else can they connect with you?
worthyup.com. Yes, that's my website. And then I'm on Instagram, The Real Meri Brown. I'm on Facebook. Well, I've got a couple of Facebook pages. I've got the Worthy Facebook page, and I've got the Meri Brown Facebook page that people can follow me and just find all things Meri Brown.
And what are you most excited about this year?
Oh my gosh, I am so excited about Worthy Up. This has been kind of a long time coming. It was such a special moment when that name was created. It was like one of those moments when you cry and you're like, oh yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yep.
Like, I was in my happy place. I was up in the mountains surrounded by trees. Like, it's just my peaceful place. And it's like, yep, that's it, you know? And I even questioned that name a couple of times just because, there's been other people who have come out using that same word, but then
Sure.
it only validates to me that this is something the world needs right now.
100%.
To be reminded that they're worthy. And so having so many people talk about it, I think just is gonna, the message is gonna be out there so much more.
I pray that the people who cast hate find solace in what you are creating, and that they find a worthiness to their lives where they no longer feel that way towards others. I do believe that there is very divine timing to what you're doing right now, and how you're creating a space for people that need this, because there's a lot of unhappy people in this world at this moment, and it's because they don't know their own worth. They don't know what they're capable of. They don't know what they could be out there creating, and they've got stuck in this rut where they don't feel empowered to do what they need to move forward. And you're changing the game on that, Meri. It's a big deal. You're making a big impact, and I want to thank you so much for being here today and for having this conversation with me. and for also being my cheerleader, being in my inbox when I need you the most and like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going through this. And you have words of kindness and words of support. And I really cherish the relationship that we've had over the last couple of years to be able to support one another and cheer each other on. It means so much to me. So thank you so much for being here today.
It means a lot to me as well. I really, truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Well, that was another episode of Freedom Motivated. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to another inspiring episode of Freedom Motivated with your host, me, Christina Whiteley. We hope that the stories we've shared today have sparked a fire within you and ignited your passion for living life on your terms. Remember, true freedom lies in the choices we make and the actions we take. So go out there and embrace your journey. Take the leap of faith, believe in yourself, and never settle for less than what you deserve. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the Freedom Motivated podcast and never miss out on our upcoming interviews with more incredible entrepreneurs and freedom leaders. Be bold, be brave, be disruptive. You are capable of things far beyond your wildest dreams if you just have the courage to go for it. Thank you for being a part of this incredible community. Until next time, may you always be driven by the desire for freedom and motivated to make your dreams a reality.